This story to be told is the first story of a trilogy of stories that have been told over the last days, but this one was not recorded. This story asks a question and enables us to illuminate our relationship with ourself, remembering, as has been suggested, that all characters and symbols and archetypes in the stories represents a part of our self. And it's a story about a man called Hamsa. Now, Hamsa was a very simple man. He lived with his wife and 9 children in a ramshackle hut built by himself at the edge of a township. Now, Hamsa and his family had a cow for milk, several sheep for wool. They had chickens for eggs. They had a vegetable garden. They needed nothing. They never transacted any money. They did not, in fact, know what money was. They lived very, very simply, and isolated as they were, they lived well and happily. But one day, a man came to their simple abode and asked for a chicken. Now Hamsa said to the visitor, "I'll have to consult my family first." And after he did so, he came back to the man and he said, "Yes, my family have agreed that you can have a chicken, providing that you promise to take good care of it." Well, the man assured Hamsa that indeed his family would take care of this chicken. And then the man said, "Well, how much do you want for it?" "Oh," said Hamsa, "we were not thinking that there would be any charge made. I'll have to consult my family," which he did. And Hamsa came back and he said, "We'll take whatever it is that you give us." So the man gave Hamsa a single copper coin, and taking his chicken, he left. Now Hamsa and his family sat around considering what they could possibly need that could be bought with this coinage. Now finally, Hamsa said, "Well, look at my shirt. There's a button missing. Perhaps we can buy a button for my shirt." So, with his family, Hamsa decided to go into town. Now, when they arrived in the town, they came to the general store, which had a sign out the front saying, "We have everything you need and much more." Now, as it happened, this was the only general store in town, so there was nowhere else that they could go. So they entered the store and searched around for where they could possibly purchase a button. Well, they came to that place where the buttons were kept on the shelf, and a salesperson came over to them, and Hamsa said that they wanted to purchase a button for the shirt that he was wearing. And the salesperson said, "Well, you can't buy just a single button. You have to buy 6 buttons." And so Hamsa said, "Well," and Hamsa had a thought, because the salesperson said to him, "You know, if you did buy a single button, and it wouldn't match. And suddenly Hamsa had the thought, well, yes, everything must match. So the salesperson duly brought out the buttons for Hamsa, but by this time other salespeople were aware of what was going on, and being anxious to make sales, someone came over and said to Hamsa, how can you put brand new buttons on that ragged shirt you're wearing? You should have a new shirt. And so Hamsa said, well, yes, everything must match. So the salesperson bought a new shirt for Hamsa to wear. And then another salesperson came over and said, how can you wear that fine new shirt with those ragged trousers you're wearing? And Hamsa said, well, yes, everything must match. I need new trousers. And so it went on. Different salespeople came along and said, you need new shoes. And then another salesperson came and said, how can you be dressed in this kind of new finery and look at your family looking so ragged and all the ragged clothes that they're wearing? So it went on that new clothes were bought for the family as well. And then, of course, it went on so that they should have new furnishings, and they should have and it went on and on and on. So Hamsa and his family had so many possessions that they could hardly imagine how they were going to take them back to their house. And by this time, the day had passed and it was coming to closing time for the store. So Hamsa, laden with all his new goods and chattels, furnishings and clothing, etc., etc., was about to leave when the manager of the store came over to him and tapped him on his shoulder and said, oh, there's one more thing. Hamsa said, well, surely there's not one more thing that we need. Oh, no, said the manager, but how are you going to pay? Oh, said Hamsa, pay? Well, we can't pay all at once. And the manager said, well, how much money do you have? And Hamsa took out his single copper coin. This was to the great horror of the manager, of course. And all of a sudden, all the salespeople came to take away all of the goods that seemingly had been purchased, to put back on the shelves. Finally, Hamsa was given a single button, because this was all that his copper coin could purchase. So Hamsa and his family went back to their ramshackle hut. They sat down at their table with the wobbly leg. They contemplated the day. And then Hamsa said to his family, you know, everything must match. So he threw away the single button. This story, the first in the trilogy, making a tripod on which there's a possibility that could rest in understanding, has the possibility of illuminating for us our relationship with ourself. What does this story mean for you, and the saying, everything must match.